Chapter 8, Section 12, Persistence and Dormancy. Persistence means that these bacterial cells are vegetative, but the genes that are being expressed are such in a way that the population itself somehow, for a while, becomes tolerant. Not going to say resistant, because the concentrations of the antibiotic that these guys can tolerate is extremely low. As it accumulates and gets higher and higher, yes, they will become susceptible. But at this low level, they can tolerate it. It doesn't interfere with their metabolism too much, so that they can still go through doing whatever it is they're doing as a vegetative cell. You get also what are referred to as persisters. These are going to be cells that are dormant. They're not an endospore. These are vegetative cells that just kind of hit pause, for lack of a better way of describing it. Everything's paused. Everything's just sitting there. So they're now dormant, metabolically inactive. They're not dead. Things are still there. Some things are being maintained. But if you're a bacterial cell in the presence of an antibiotic that targets topoisomerase, if you're dormant, you're not going through trying to copy your chromosome anyways. As I said, pretty much, all antibiotics are going to be damaged. They got a short shelf life. And if you're in a body or you're in an organism, a host organism, liver, kidneys, whatever, are going to turn it over, those antibiotics anyways. Just got to wait it out. That's what this is, a waiting game. If you're in a liquid, growing in a liquid environment, and some antibiotic is suddenly present by a competing, produced by a competing microbe, fungi, another bacteria, go dormant, wait it out. Things will be flushed away by movement of the water. We see this with Mycobacterium tuberculosis. I've made the comment in lectures that Mycobacterium tuberculosis, its generation time is 18 hours. It's not that it's just slow during those times. No, it spends a lot of that time, those 18 hours, dormant, relatively metabolically inactive. Just enough not to be dead, but not so metabolically active that the presence of other drugs and things like that are going to be damaging to it. There's a reason why you have to take the anti-TB medicines like 3-4 times a day, rigidly. Because, by the time you get it in, it gets into your body, your liver, your kidneys are removing it before these dormant cells even start doing anything. They keep the metabolic levels very low. Dormant, up a bit, a little higher, and then back down. Whereas E. coli staph are off the charts. They don't go dormant like these. Yeah, I'll let you read on the hip B, hip A. Hip B, hip AB is metabolically active cells are not, expressing this gene as much. But when they get to a certain point where they're going to go and become persisters, you'll see that these persisters are going to start making or allow for the expression of hip B, which combines with hip A. Hip A, a toxin which will trigger death of competing cells. the metabolically active ones, leaving just these persister cells that are metabolically slow. Hip B protects them from their own hip A. And then they become metabolically active, divide, and then go back to a persister state. Divide, go back to a persister state. What happens is hip A goes and interferes with tRNA transferase. So you don't get charging of the tRNAs. You get uncharged tRNAs entering into the A site. No, elongation of the polypeptide, and no movement of the ribosome, codon by codon, no translocation. So this hip A actually interferes with translation. Not directly with the ribosome, but interfering with the recharging of the tRNAs. It does this by expression of hip A's. Under normal conditions, hip A's are being held by hip B, but when it goes into a persister state, hip B becomes inactivated and any hip A gets released and now excreted out. So you'll see in this population, vegetative cells, sporulating cells, and dormant cells, all expressing different genes, different toxins, different antitoxins, all at the same time. Toxin, antitoxin modules, you're going to have these two components. One component is a toxin, the other component is an antitoxin, just as we saw with hip A, hip B, so that the bacteria is not making something that's going to damage self. Okay, because remember, the whole point of having the toxin isn't to indiscriminately kill everybody, especially if you're going to be killing yourself first off, but it's to kill competitors without damaging self. You add a toxin, you're going to have an antitoxin. The whole hip A, hip B thing that I just talked about, so I'm not going to go over it all again. Okay, so steps to dormancy. I forget why I put all this in here. I'll just let you read it. Basically, what it comes down to, you go into dormancy, you're stalling, you're slowing down translation. Okay, slow down translation means that certain things that are going to be targeting your ribosomes, toxins or antibiotics, are just not going to have any type of, anything to work with. Your ribosome's already not working, so the hip A is going to get turned over in enough time. It's going to get ubiquitinated, turned over, and off it goes anyways. So you just got to wait it out, and that's what this is all about. This stringent response is induced by REL-A, and then that tetraphosphate guanosine that we've seen back in chapter 7. This stringent response decreases ribosomal RNA and tRNA synthesis. Okay, we want to sit there and start suppressing transcription translation. Okay, we want to remove the targets for any antibiotics or toxins that are going to be coming into the environment, that are going to get into the cell. Going to use what's already there, but we're not going to make new. Okay, we're going to have the ribosomes there, we're going to have the tRNAs there, but we're not going to replenish. We're not going to increase the numbers. If we were in a metabolically active vegetative cell that had all the nutrients, all the water it needed, yeah, make as many ribosomes as possible, get as much tRNA out there into the cytoplasm and get all of it charged, get all of it attached with amino acid. Yeah, go, go, go. But since we're trying to go into a dormant, this stringent response, we're suppressing, we're pushing down. Once the antibiotic, once the toxin goes away, these persister cells no longer going to be in that stringent response. Okay? They've slowly been able to accumulate enough antitoxin or enough, and of an enzyme that's going to get rid of that antibiotic, whatever. You're going to see this shift back where that suppressed metabolic functions are now going to slowly creep back up. It's going to become a vegetative cell again for a while. Going to go through, start doing it until it hits a certain, cues. Quorum sensing cues are going to say, hey, our population's now getting so high, toxins are now going to be starting to be made. Certain cells are going to start going into, endospore formation. Antibiotics are now going to start, being expressed and excreted. Go back to that stringent response, suppress, push down, wait it out.